Okay. I'm here with Paul. It's Trammell, right?
Yes.
I wanted to say Trammell. So bad that you should know how bad that I...
That's pretty common. Yeah, that's common enough. But yeah, we say Trammell.
Is it French? I mean, was it Trammell?
English.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it probably is Trammell then.
Yeah.
Trammell. Always has been. I mean.
Yep. Yeah, and there's actually an English word, trammel. If you look it up in the dictionary, you'll find it.
Yeah.
With one L.
Which
means to restrain or constrict something, chain up a horse's legs or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've known a few English people, and I'm always encouraging them to try and learn the language. So, like, I don't know why you guys can't speak it. I mean, okay, so we're on board your boat, Windflower, right?
Windflower.
And tell me about her.
Windflower is a 1972 Cartwright 40. It's a full keel, flush deck cutter, designed by Jerry Cartwright, and designed with ocean passages made in mind, making ocean passage. Designed for single-hand ocean passage making.
And it's a true blue water sailboat.
It is. This is by 1970s standards and design ideas a true blue water boat, and by today's ideas of blue water boat, that means it's very heavy and comfortable and stable. Modern day blue water boat would probably be lighter and faster, but the blue ideas about blue water boats change over time. But I'm all about just make it easy for me and make it safe and give me confidence, in case I hit something or make some stupid decisions or bad calls with weather.
Yeah.
That stuff all happens.
So when you're planning a route, where are your comfort levels? Where do you, deeper than this is for sure okay, and this I need to check it and be sure of the tides, but...
Yeah, so planning a blue water passage, I just want to be offshore, first off. I want to get away from anything I can run into. So I'm not, like, if I'm going from St. Augustine, Florida to the Bahamas, I would prefer to go out and get in the ocean the first day, cross the Gulf Stream and get away from everything and take a nap. Whereas the classic way of doing it is to go down the intercoastal till you get to Fort Lauderdale or Fort Pierce or something, and then make that one-day cross. And that's certainly going to be easier for some people to do it that way and be in their comfort zone. But as a single-hander especially, like I want to get away from traffic and hard things I might run into, like land, So so my comfort zone sailing is just get me as far away from anything that I might run into as possible. Get me out in the open ocean where there's no traffic and no islands and no land. The intercoastal would be the opposite of that. You can't take your eye off the road for a second, when you're going down the intercoastal. So as a single-hander, that's pretty tough.
Yeah. And you're rigged with electronic autopilot and a wind vane, right? Yeah,
I just added the Hydrovane wind vane autopilot a year ago, and that's a real game changer. That means when I'm offshore sailing, I don't have to steer at all for as many days as I want, as long as the wind is fairly consistent, which it usually is. But I've also got pelagic electronic autopilot, which I installed, which is a classic big hydraulic ram under the deck, the typical sort of electronic autopilot. And then this boat came with the Raymarine wheel pilot, which also works. But any of those three is apt to malfunction and have some sort of problem. So as a single-hander, if you have one autopilot and it malfunctions, you're in a world of hurt, if you have a long passage to make. I mean, there's other things you can do, especially if you have a tiller. This boat doesn't have a tiller, but if you have a tiller, you can do sheet-to-tiller steering. If you're sailing, you can run your sheets a particular way to the tiller and have them steer. Most boats, this one included, you can, on a close reach, you can balance the sails and lock off the wheel. She'll go days at a time like that if the wind is, if we're sailing upwind. So I can do that. But like if I'm motoring, for instance, the Hydrovane doesn't work when you're motoring. It steers by the wind. And if you're motoring and you have no electronic autopilot, then you're stuck at the wheel.
Okay, so you got all three.
Yeah.
Do you find that like you said, you can't use the hydro vane when you're motoring.
Right.
But do you find that between the two electronics, one that's the wheel, one that's the hydraulic ram, that one works better than the other one, or in different conditions?
You know, I got the pelagic because this boat is heavier, a lot heavier than the rating for that wheel pilot. So I didn't expect it to work when I first bought the boat. And I guess I've never really put it to a hard test, but it's always worked, except once when the belt broke, because I locked off the wheel and then turned it on. It tried to turn. It runs on a little belt, and the belt broke. So that's the only time I had a problem with it. Does one work better than the other? Not that I really know of. They both work.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been surprised. I probably have this almost exact same Raymarine Autopilot, and I found, and I haven't quantified it, but under some conditions, and I mean ugly, waves coming at maybe even in a confused sea, that it will go straight as an arrow. And then other ones, it is doing this bad serpentine, hunt through it. And in fact, it seems like it almost works better the uglier the seas are sometimes.
That's interesting. Yeah, because their weakness, or the weakness of any autopilot, one of them is going to be if your sails aren't balanced. If the sails are set such that they're trying to turn the boat upwind or downwind, that's going to make it hard for the autopilot to steer. But yeah, they're tricky, and that's why as a single hander you need more than one. I mean, you definitely need at least some sort of backup. I mean, you need that's a general principle for all sailing things. You need backups because stuff always breaks. Everything's got such a hard life out here, on a sailboat.
Oh, absolutely.
Every piece of equipment is, apt to break or fail at any given time.
Yeah, and in an
including us.
Well, and in an 8-day crossing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, another one of the things the hydrovane is not good at is if a squall, for instance, because it's great if the wind is blowing from the same direction. You don't have to change it. You just keep going. But in a squall, the wind's going to come from over here, and then it's going to come up from over there, and then it's going to get stronger. And
right.
So if you're sailing through squally conditions, you're pretty much going to be hand steering. Or you turn on the electronic autopilot and you start adjusting the sails, as the wind changes. That works. That's what I do. Like between Panama and Colombia, it was 4 days of squalls and motor sailing. So I was using the electronic autopilot then and doing a lot of sail adjustments. And I'm exaggerating. 4 days of squalls. I mean, 4 days where squalls happened.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, it was because it was an 8-day passage, right?
It was, yeah. The first 4 days were Bocas del Toro to. I didn't stop in Colombia, but I went very close to Cartagena, and that's a big windless area. There's hardly any wind there. There's no trade wind there, so it was a lot of motoring, and some motor sailing, and quite a few squalls. Not like bad squalls, rain and wind. But it's 86 degrees, so what's a little rain and wind? You're still just wearing shorts and maybe a shirt, maybe not. Not so bad.
Why not in Cartagena?
It would have cost me at least $200 just to clear customs.
Okay.
And then I would have had to have gotten another COVID test to leave, and clear customs again to leave. And it's just, I've never been. Some people love it, but to me, from my perspective, it looks like a city. And I'm all about this. It's just nature.
Right.
And the weather window was good. So I would have stopped in Cartagena if one of my weather people would have said to. Like I had 3 different people watching the weather for me. And one of the main things I told them is when I get to close to Cartagena, I'm going to need to make the decision. Do I cross the Caribbean? Is everything cool? Or is there a nasty weather event coming and I should pull in and stay in Cartagena? So I would have pulled in had anyone recommended it. But I got there and the weather window held and it was pleasant. I had like wind in the upper teens, mid to upper teens the whole way across the Caribbean. It's perfect, just right.
So with the COVID testing, did you find that every country kind of did like the Bahamas, where you had to have a test in the last country you're in within so many days, and you arrive at the new country and check in within that window?
Pretty much. At that time, Colombia was not It didn't require you to show up with a test. But that's typically how it's been. Yeah, I mean, I've only been to the Bahamas, since COVID started. I was in the Bahamas, and I went to Florida. Of course, I didn't need to bring a test with me to come home. You don't need to do much of anything. You clear customs with an app on your phone.
Right.
It's pretty easy. And then back to the Bahamas. I had to get a PCR at that time, and then from the Bahamas, I went to San Andres, Colombia, and they accepted a rapid antigen test that was like 2 weeks old, 15 days old or something from the Bahamas. It's no problem. And then Panama wanted a test, rapid antigen test. They wanted it with 2 weeks old or less. That's why I stopped in San Andres, so I could get a fresh one.
Oh, okay.
And then Jamaica, I showed up with a rapid antigen, and she said, "Oh, this was supposed to have been a PCR," but she let me in anyway. She was nice. They were nice people. Clearing customs in Jamaica was easy.
Yeah.
And they didn't charge me anything. Nothing.
Nothing.
Except I had to stay at a marina, and so I
Yeah.
paid for that. But it wasn't expensive. It was $38 a night for this boat, and they would have charged me to anchor for $28 a night. So
Sounds like
I'll
a deal.
stay. Extra $10 a day. I'll splurge.
Yeah. Okay, so you're talking about. I know one of the reasons you're out here is to get one-on-one with nature.
Yeah.
But I mean, there must be some cost with not family and friends. I mean, people that you've left behind somewhere.
Yeah. For me, I am just fine with being by myself, and I'm also just fine with change. In fact, I like change. I like difference. I like things that are different. When I go on a vacation, I want it to be completely different from wherever I just came from, for instance. And then I also like that in the long term. 5 or 10 years, every 5 or 10 years, I tend to make a big change. And so it wasn't a that big of a deal, really. I mean, there was a lot of big changes in my life going on at that time. I quit drinking. That's how this all started. So that brings about changes. And in order to stay sober, to actually stay sober for a number of years, you need to change a bunch of things. And the more you change, the better. So if you really dramatically change your life, you're not going to have all those same temptations that you're used to seeing. You're going to have, everything's going to be new and different. So to put it simply, if you for instance, if you move, you're going to meet new people. You can meet people that don't drink. You're not going to see the liquor store that you always bought your beer at or your liquor. You're not going to see the bars you used to go to. You're not going to have all the same friends you used to drink with. So changes help that. And to sell my house and quit my job and move on to a sailboat, like that's pretty ideal for someone who's trying not to drink. This is my little sanctuary.
Yeah. So literally not a consequence, but really a necessary part of the plan.
Yeah. It is. This fit right into the not drinking anymore thing, which I'm gonna hit 7 years in a couple of weeks.
That's
February
awesome.
3rd.
Do you feel like there's a craving of the chaos of it, or do you just like seeing new things, or do you feel like you need some of that to get stimulation out of being in situations that you're not comfortable in, or is there some joy in lack of comfort zone?
Yeah, there is, for sure. One of the things I always say is step outside your comfort zone. Do something awesome today. I used to be a radio DJ, and that was one of the things I always said. Step outside your comfort zone. Yeah, because this is how we learn and grow and do new things. And yes, to answer your question, the answer is yes. I do sort of crave thrill and excitement and danger, and drinking was taking the place of that, because it can be fun and exciting to get all drunk and party and do crazy things. And, it can slowly erode away your adventurous life and take the place of it and make you into a fat old lazy drunk. That was starting to happen. So yeah, I enjoy. I mean, I love what's going on today. This is like peaceful, calm weather, beautiful. Sitting in a calm anchorage with a couple of friends. I'm gonna go spearfishing. Like, that's why we're here, right? Love it, absolutely love it. But after a week or so of this, I'm like, okay, I need to get back out on the ocean and go sailing again. So I do enjoy the thrill of a little bit of chaos. Sailing will give you much more chaos than you ever wanted, though, too. And I don't need much. I don't need to sail around Cape Horn or around the world, or just sailing from here to Florida can be hairy sometimes.
Okay, so I'm a firm believer that adventure and risk are necessary elements of the same equation.
Yep.
That there's no adventure without a risk.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance that risk and adventure? I mean, there must be certain lines that you
Yep.
have, or
There are. Adventure is much more fun when you know you're not going to get killed. When you're doing the proper safety precautions. When you're taking the proper safety precautions, adventure like sailing is much more fun to me. For instance, rock climbers, it's scary as hell, climbing straight up a cliff. Most of them, almost all of them, are using so much proper protective safety gear that if they fall, they're going to get caught and they're not going to die. They're not even going to get hurt, probably, or maybe a little bit, but still, that sport's too scary for me. But sailing, I do all that. I take safety precautions, big time. Right behind me is a jack line. There's one on your side, too. It's a flat nylon strap that runs from the cockpit to the bow on both sides of the boat. I wear a life jacket with 2 tethers, and I clip those tethers to these jack lines. As soon as I come out of this companionway, every single time, the first thing I do before I'm out is I reach over and clip in. Every time, whether it's good weather or bad. I think of it as like a seatbelt in a car. You just do it every time. So I'm almost always attached to the boat. I mean, literally very close to 100% of the time. If I'm not inside, I'm attached to the boat. And then I've also got a PLB, a personal locator beacon, on my life jacket. That's a little EPIRB. It's a little satellite communicator. I press the button, it sends out an SOS to a satellite that goes to the U.S. Coast Guard or somebody on land. They call my emergency contacts. They say, "Is Paul sailing? We got his EPIRB." I already told them where I'm going, and they'll say, "Yes, he's in between this island and that island." And they say, "Okay, well, that's where we got it from, so we're gonna try to rescue him." So I'm always wearing that thing. It'll give me a chance, if I'm floating around in the water. At least there's a chance.
Yeah.
I've got a life raft. I've got a bigger EPIRB inside the boat. I've got the Garmin inReach, so people are tracking me, and that's also an SOS device. So I take enough safety precautions that I feel like I can take some risk. And I've also got the radar and the AIS. I've got the proper electronic gear to let other boats know I'm there, and for my electronics to let me know that if there's another boat in the area, an alarm will go off and wake me up or alert me to it. So I take what safety precautions I think are necessary, and then I stop, because you can go on forever buying new safety gear. You can just go way overboard with it. You can get to the point where you think, even though I have all this stuff, I could have more, so I probably shouldn't leave yet. So I just draw a line, like, okay, I've got these things, that's enough. I'm not even going to think about more safety gear, because I have enough, and I'm going, and it's on. It's on, like I am going. And then I watch the weather. Very carefully watch the weather. Another important safety thing is not to be on a schedule when you're sailing. You can't just say, "I'm going to leave on January 1st and leave on January 1st. That's what races do. That's one reason why races are so dangerous. They take a lot of extra risk that way. I say I want to, and I'm going to be ready to leave. I will start looking at weather windows on this date or whenever I'm ready. And that's it. I'm not leaving that day. I'm starting to look at weather windows that day. And I might wait a week. I might wait 2 weeks. I might wait so long I decide to go somewhere else. Like in December of last year, 2 Decembers ago, I was waiting for a weather window to sail from Florida to Panama. And it kept not happening. It kept looking ugly. And finally a 3-day weather window came up. And I thought, well, why not go to the Bahamas instead? So I went to the Bahamas.
And that's how you came to the Bahamas the first time?
No, that was probably my third time.
Okay.
Yeah. So the point is, you can't be rigidly following a schedule. You have to be totally flexible. If you think you're going to Eleuthera tomorrow, like I was just talking about maybe doing, and then I realized what's probably better, the conservative weather plan is not to leave tomorrow. Why not just hang out? I'm not on a schedule.
Right.
And another thing I've learned is there's adventure right here, and I haven't seen it all yet. There's more reef out there I haven't been to yet. I don't need to sail all day to go somewhere else just because I've been here for a week. I still haven't seen all the cool stuff here yet. I haven't walked on these islands yet. I haven't been to Staniel Key. There's plenty to do right here. There's adventure. There might be adventure right in your backyard. There usually is.
Yeah.
You don't have to go looking for it. So yeah, point I'm trying to make: if you're sailing, it's best not to be on a schedule and to be totally flexible about your plans, because you don't need to go add more risk than there already is. There's plenty of risk out there and discomfort.
Yeah.
The ocean will dish it out more than you want.
Well, we found that, yeah, regardless of how much planning you make, and regardless of how closely you think you've monitored, that things change and just from time to time, shit happens.
Yeah, and the thing you don't want to do is what I was considering doing tomorrow, which is I was going to sail to Eleuthera. Yeah, I was considering it, right? And the windy forecast looks good, except just north of where I would be, the weather's unacceptable. So you got to remember that just north could move south easy.
Right.
And if it moves south just a little bit, all of a sudden you wish you'd stayed put. So why not just stay put? The more I sail, the more I want to sail in pleasant conditions. I sailed from Clarencetown to the Exumas, my last passage, and it was like just barely enough wind to move, calm seas, clear sky, all the stars were out. I was cruising along at like 4.5, 5 knots, just in like 10 knots of wind, just loving it. I was thinking to myself, this is great. This is perfect. Give me this. I've decided 12 knots is my favorite wind speed. 12. Like I can go about 5.5, depending on the angle of the wind, the angle of my sail. But that's just pleasant. That's just pleasant sailing in this boat. That's what I like. Just give me the fun stuff.
Okay. So what? But I mean, with the inherent risks to the sport, right? Which is what I suppose a lawyer might say.
Right.
What do you get out of it? I mean, obviously, if you had a life back wherever, right? In the middle of Topeka, Kansas, you could have a 9-to-5 job at a really nice cubicle and a sweet apartment and a car that was, still had that new car smell. So why out here? What do you get out of it?
The short answer is nature. I crave being deep in nature. I'm happy surrounded by the natural world, especially if it's warm and colorful and has some adventure and some beauty and some wildlife. And we've got all that. There's so much wildlife underwater. My happy place is in the water too. I love being in the water, particularly underwater. I just really, really like it. So what do I get out of it besides all that? That just seems like artificial living to me. I mean, I know it's how most people live and they're happy. That's but for me, I've always craved being deeper in nature. Even as a kid, I spent all my free time in the woods, walking around by myself, just walking in the woods. Carving little things with a knife and making little forts, and I don't know what I was doing, but I spent all my free time in the woods as a kid, and it's always been that way for me. I want to be in nature. I'm happier there. I'm very happy. It's very peaceful and tranquil out here, and quiet, and it's a good place to write, which is what I do for a living. Being surrounded by nature, that's the main thing.
So as I'm listening to your podcast, it feels like, hopefully I'm not taking this the wrong way, but it feels like you have almost like this real thirst to learn and expand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there must be some, and maybe that's
Yeah,
more of what the
that's part of it
podcast is
too.
about. But there's the people that you've chosen to talk to. It feels like each one of them is providing this little
Yeah.
piece of the key, you know, of this key that's going to unlock something.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, the podcast is educational for me and for the listeners. That's the point. I do want to learn. The more you learn about sailing, the more fun it is, and it's kind of like chess or I don't know, golf maybe. I don't play golf, but my father does, and he says the same thing about it. You can keep learning about it your whole life. You can keep getting better at it. Surfing is that way. It never gets old. But particularly sailing, there's a ton of stuff to learn, and you can learn just enough and get going and be enjoying it. But you can keep on learning new things. You can keep learning and learning and learning, and that opens up new doors, and it makes the sailing more enjoyable. You know, the more you learn about managing your sails and sail trim, and it just makes the sailing more enjoyable. It's more comfortable. You know, if you know what to do as the conditions change, then things don't get hairy when they could. You know, they stay manageable and okay. So yeah, I definitely enjoy learning and expanding, and that is part of sailing. It's a whole new adventure to learn. It's a whole new world of knowledge, body of knowledge to learn about, and that's part of what keeps me happy too. That's part of what makes me feel like living like has a meaning. You know, like it's life validating to do things like this. You know, like surfing is that way too. You know, I just had a life validating moment in Clarencetown. I went and surfed a reef break all by myself, you know, that I took my dinghy to, and there's just something about surfing on a reef break in the Bahamas all by yourself that someone told you about, and you went and found it, and you sailed there in order to do it, and then you go out and you surf it. It just sort of validates everything else that got you there. You know, it's those little things, you know, and that's part of life. You got to realize what it is that makes you happy. You have to figure out what it is that makes you happy and makes you feel like life has meaning, and then you got to go do it. And those aren't easy things to figure out or to do. It's easy to just let the world tell you what they think should make you happy, and then to do that, and then to be depressed and unfulfilled. That's kind of an epidemic, I think.
Yeah.
It's better to think deeply to yourself, like what really makes me happy. Well, for me, it's being out in nature, it's adventure, it's learning things, doing things different, change, staying sober,
Yeah.
hanging out with friends.
Well, so question: if like I say, I feel this like thirst for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a natural consequence of that is that at some point that flips around, and you want to be a teacher.
Yeah, I kind of am a natural teacher. I actually was a teacher for a little while, but I enjoy it. I enjoy passing on what knowledge I have. You know, once I get to a point where I feel like I have something to pass on, I do enjoy sharing knowledge, and then knowing that someone you shared knowledge with is going to take it and use it and experience something cool, you know, and get something out of it. It's sort of, you know, one of the greatest things in life is just to feel like you made the world a better place, and teaching is one way to do that.
Yeah. So do you? We get every possible boat in the planet. It's awesome.
Yeah, they've all been waiting for this morning to.
I guess so, because I swear 10 boats have gone by in the last like 6 minutes.
And nobody went by yesterday.
Nobody, not one boat at all. I didn't know where are they coming from?
I don't know. That is a high-end resort over there, though, with the it looks like it from the aerial photos anyway, with the windmills.
Yeah, but it didn't look like they had a huge marina that would be dumping boats out like this. I mean, look at that. I think it's got 5 motors on the back of it.
Yeah, I guess they're coming from Staniel Key too. Who knows?
So is this like someday they just roll your body out in the carpets of a sailboat, or is there ever? Do you feel like this is part, and then there's some other adventure in you, or yet to be determined?
Oh, yet to be determined. You know, if I had to put money on it, I would say there's a good chance after about 10 years I'll end up doing something different. But it hasn't gotten old yet, and I don't see it getting old. there's a chance I'll be an old man on a boat too. Hard to say. I do like change. I like to take something new and fun, and then see how much I can get out of it. Push it to the limit. I think you can do that with sailing for the rest of your life. Surfing hasn't gotten old either. I still surf. I started surfing in 1987 or something, or 88. It has not gotten old yet. I still make that a priority.
Yeah.
Because it's that much fun. Sailing could certainly be that much fun too for the rest of my life. But you never know. I might do something completely different one day. There is kind of a natural progression, for sailors to go from a sailboat to a trawler to an RV.
to an old folks' home, to a morgue.
Yeah, so who knows?
It's like a reverse progression of man,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm flexible. And the bottom line is I'm all about being flexible. Adapt, change when change is calling you.
Yeah.
Don't stay the course just for the sake of staying the course, Stay the course if you're trying to reach a goal. But change is good too. Anything can happen.
So Paul, for all of us that are curious about your stuff, how would we get access to your podcast, your books? What's the easiest?
All right. So I've got a website, paultrammell.com. All my books are on there. I've published 7 books. They're all on Amazon, but there's links to them all on my website. There's a couple of novels. There's 3 sailing nonfictions. There's 2 about quitting drinking. Instagram is trammell.paul. A podcast called Offshore Sailing and Cruising with Paul Trammell. They're all on my website. What is there, another helicopter?
No, it's another boat.
Yeah, you can find it all at paultrammell.com. And thanks for asking.